Auto and, first thing to do is approve the special meetings in January.
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes from January.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous, all voted. So we're going to hear from, meeting is being recorded, by the way, it's on YouTube, and it is a special meeting, so we can't add any additional items to it. We're going to receive budget presentations from WPCA, Police, Library, and Department of Public Works. Rick, do you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you. The first sheet I'm going to talk about is the revenue sheet. It's the one that looks like this. What this is our total accounts, residential, commercial, and industrial. This is how we know all of our connections and what we would get for the money that's paid. I took the names off of the commercial and industrials to protect Unison. So you just have numbers. You can't see what those accounts were. That's why it's blank. So last year, or this current fiscal year, we charged $420 per residential user. We were at 400. We went to 420 for this fiscal year. Evaluating what we have for the upcoming year, we were noticing there's a big reduction in water usage for our commercial and our industrials, to the point of 87,000 gallons for one, 558,000 for another, 1 million gallons less for another. So ultimately, we were 404,000 gallons less, 404,000 gallons less than what we were the previous year. So our local businesses are becoming efficient with their water usage, ultimately is the answer. That said, it doesn't help us that much because we still have to keep capital accounts, daily operations, and upkeep. So we still need to have the same amount of money. Also, as I've talked in the past, the last major update that needs to be done at the plant is an ultraviolet system. We've been looking at it over the last few years, trying to figure out how we could implement the project without coming to the taxpayers and asking for more money. We decided last year to hire CDM Smith and do an evaluation, basically an RFP for the equipment only. Before we designed anything or anything, we had them put out RFP, and 3 equipment companies came back. They evaluated the 3 companies, and they chose the best one for us. We took it to the next step. They did an estimate for us, and it came in at $1.7 million. So we knew that that wasn't a feasible project for our budget. Talking with the board, I looked over the proposal, and I feel that we could save $1 million if we did it ourselves, and I would be the project manager of it. We budgeted at $600,000. We would be using our local electrician, and we would buy the parts direct, so there wouldn't be any markup. The WPCA gave me an approval last fall, and our intent is to do that project in 2 fiscal years. So we were able to save money this current fiscal year, $300,000, and bought the equipment. And then this next fiscal year, we'll take $300,000 out of this budget. So I say that because I need to have the same amount of money in our budget this current year. Thanks, Mr. G. This current year as we did last year, even though we have a little bit of reduction in flow. So we figured out that we would have to raise our rates to $450 per residential unit. It would be a $30 increase, and it's paid in 2 installments, July 1st, January 1st, just like our taxes. With calculating that and calculating the new gallons per day that the companies are giving us, gallons per year, we're still at $140,000 deficit, round numbers, 139, 479 on this budget. The only way we can actually do this project without asking for extra money somewhere is to take money out of our savings account. So the WPCA voted to do that. So as you can see, this was the comparison of the 420 to 450. This is what companies would pay. We also had the septic hauler retire. We only have one septic company that comes into our facility. We only accept Stafford Septic. Our facility is not big enough to accept out-of-town septic, even though it is a moneymaker. It would actually be detrimental to our system. So I had to reduce 36,000 out of that. New connections. We had the old rural school. We made an arrangement with the new owners. The new owner paid $60,000 connection fee over a 3-year period. And this fiscal year, it's the last $20,000 fee, so I had to reduce that by $20,000 also. So if we flip it over, we can go through the budget. We had salary adjustments, so our salary line item went up some. We also have 6 full-time employees. Over the last 5 years, we've been bouncing around between 5 and 6, and 4 at one point. Pretty solid crew right now. Shout out to one of the guys today who passed the CDL license B. He's working hard for his wastewater business. We see our crew building the state, not to look somewhere else. And uniforms, normal fixed costs. They adjusted the plant maintenance, repair, $1,100 more continuing education, as we do have. Actually, 2 people that are progressing in wastewater training, so we're doing up to a $3,000 increase. We looked at the disposable sludge, we were able to reduce it by $3,500. Processed chemicals are the big one. We were able to reduce that by $10,000. Sewer line maintenance, we've been pretty hot on that topic over the last few years. We've been maintaining our system and relining stuff. We reduced that to $29,400. Capital line maintenance, we reduced $90,000. That's money to put in the capital account. Capital equipment, $95,500 we reduced. Vehicle replacement, we reduced $5,000. And then our bond payment that we pay the town every year was reduced this year of $947. Again, we're looking at the project at $300,000 for a UV project, and that was why we saw some of these reductions in our capital accounts. We put it in our capital account and transfer it later, but it was better in the project. So we calculated that out. We felt we needed $240,000 out of our cash flow savings account. Our budget presentation was $2,404,080. We're still putting 5% in capital. And if we have revenue at the end, it automatically goes back into our account. So, questions?
There's no grants available to help offset the UV replacement.
Right now, Clean Water Fund is a couple of years out. There isn't any grants anymore. It's low income loans. We feel pretty comfortable with our budgets. Cash flow per savings. that we should be able to take that money out and use that and not hurt us. The state asks that we have at least one full year of the budget in the savings account. Right now, we're about $600,000 higher than that. So it would balance out.
And if grants come available, does it null and void if you do the job yourself and not hire it out?
Well, good question. There's a lot of things that you have to do with grants. A lot of protocols that they require. Again, we're looking to save $1.1 million by project managing it ourselves and using local electricians.
Rick, does that include any design work?
So the manufacturing of the equipment is the one that they chose. That would be our best equipment to use. Is actually the same equipment that we put in 1998, except it's just modernized. New technology, less energy usage, and the units will fit in the existing holes that we have now. There is a couple of minor brackets that we would need to put on, and basically it's electrical upgrade. That's where I felt that it was easy enough for us to do and continue to keep the facility up and running every day. A note to that is our season is from April 1st to October 31st. We won't have the equipment before April 1st. So over the summer, we're going to prep the electrical and have everything set up. So from November 1st, when we're able to shut off the old system, we'll start upgrading the new system. So I hope that answered your question.
And does it have like a window of time that would be down?
So again, November 1st until April 1st is the off season that it's not on. So we'll be doing the upgrading at that time.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Now, you had mentioned in an email that there's a draft budget. This isn't the full final, formal approved one yet by your board, correct?
So the board ultimately said yes on this. We haven't done our public hearing like we have to on our rate.
Yeah.
And they approved for me to come forward tonight and present it to you. But just know logistically, it just hasn't gone through this process yet.
All right.
But I don't see anything changing.
So I know that we always vote to approve your budget or whatever, so when you finalize it at that point, we'll do the other one.
All right, we're gonna have the public hearing in March, at our regular meeting. Yeah, March. So it'll be after that, but again, it's going to be what we're presenting.
Great.
So you had stated that residential fees are going up. Is business fees also going up in conjunction with this
Yeah, everything will be going up equally.
equally?
On that revenue sheet, you can see it was per 1,000 gallons, it was $6.77 for our commercial industrials. And it's gonna go up to $7.26 per 1,000 gallons.
Okay, thank you. That was my question.
So we all done with WPCA? Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Nice job. The next budget to be presented will be the police department, Sergeant Cormier.
Yeah. Good evening. Before I start on the budget, I figured I'd just give you kind of an overall what the police department's been up to for the past year. I told Mr. Morrison our Harper Road grant has come through completion. That was a grant that we got from the state. From 2023 to 2025, your officers here in town conducted 1,600 traffic stops, resulting in 834 infractions, 786 warnings, and 2 arrests. During the past year, the police department received 189 pounds of pharmaceuticals that were disposed of using our pharmaceutical drop box in the lobby. We responded to 7,665 calls for service, and of those calls, 78% were the constables that you guys pay for here in town. Another notable thing is the amount of traffic stops conducted over the past year was 1,700 traffic stops. Again, that was 90% for constables here in town. I do have some other statistics, but those are some that I wanted to point out before I kind of jump into the budget, just so you guys understand what we're doing. We had 108 cases resulting in arrest, 36 community engagement activities throughout town. Those include any of the parades or things throughout town, and 60 domestic violence incidents.
Okay, how many domestic violence?
What's that? 60. So I believe you do have the budget in front of you, correct?
Yeah.
So the per diem officers remains the same for our next year. Just as a caveat, this budget is as a draft, same as WPCA. I worked with Mr. Morrison to complete a finalized version, but this is just a draft that we're working on. The officers is an increase. Obviously, those are contractual increases. I have no control over the increases there. Same with my salary. Those are contractual increases. Dispatching services remains the same. Community patrol augmentation was an increase of $1,000. That's just to offset the cost of the more activities that we're doing throughout town. The town is asking us to participate in a farm day that originally was not a town sanctioned event. The uniform allowance, there's a large increase in that of $9,000. The officers' our ballistic vests are coming up for replacement. They have a 5-year replacement on them, and that's 2027 is when they're coming to be replaced. We have quotes for those. They're about $1,000 a piece, including the outer carriers. FICA and health insurance, I have no control over those increases. Longevity remains the same. Vehicle repair and maintenance is an increase of $1,000. We have an aging fleet, and as we're doing that, our vehicles are coming up and needing repair, and even our newer cruisers are falling out of warranty, so those aren't covered repairs. We have 2 vehicles that required AC and heat repairs, and those were at least $1,000 a piece. So they do add up quickly. Training remains the same. Small increase to telephone costs, only because the costs have increased. Office supply remain the same. Vehicle gas and oil was an increase of $1,000. That's just an estimate based on the price of gas and oil. Police equipment was an increase of $10,000. That request was because we originally had used it in the 23 to 24 fiscal year. We dropped down to took a 50% cut in that, and we're asking it to be brought back up to what it was in those prior fiscal years.
What would that equipment be? Just curious.
Yeah, so that it's to pay for any of our bullets and ammo that has to get paid for, the police equipment, our radar systems that have to get certified every year, or anything that has to get certified usually come out of police equipment. And I believe that's it. Questions?
Any questions on the budget?
I've got one question.
Absolutely.
Can I use my microphone? I noticed just from observation that the number of tractor trailer trucks, big trucks going through town increases all the time. Is there any reason for that? I mean, that you know of? Is it because of the warehouse locations around here, or is it people trying to dodge the scales on 84 or what?
No, a big part of our tractor trailer traffic is actually they're Martin Brower out of Enfield. They use 190 to get to 84, but there are some that used to avoid it, but it's just an increase in commerce. There's nothing really to explain it. We've been trying to work with the GPS companies that had been telling tractor trailers to get off of 84 at exit 73 and take Rockwell Road to get to Love's Truck Stop. I don't know why they decided to do that, but we made a complaint to try and get them to fix the GPS systems, but hopefully that'll slow down.
And are you responsible for the signage on the crosswalks and, all the rest of it, or is that done by the state?
Depends on the area. Some is covered by the state, some is covered by the town. Specifically, if you're talking about Main Street, the crosswalks on Main Street we've decided are the town's responsibility.
Of the town? And how about the schools, the crosswalk up by the middle school
The crosswalk up by the middle school would be the town's responsibility.
Thank you.
I have a question about the state grants. In the past, there was a line item there, and we decided to take it out because we got, when something occurred where we just submitted it and they would give it back. Is there a reason why this is back in the budget line?
That was just put in there. There's no, I don't know why it's there, but there's nothing, we're not asking for it because there is no grant money there anymore. We spent it
That's
all.
the showing for 2 years ago, showing.
Okay. Oh, I see. Interesting. Thank you.
I have a question. Sergeant Cormier, can you tell us how many shifts or how much, approximately, what percentage of time is not covered by our employees?
Sure. So currently don't have a dedicated midnight shift officer. We have one officer that comes in at 3 in the morning. And again, those work from five days on, 3 days off. So you have 3 days off that's not covered from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. Most other day shifts are always covered unless somebody takes off. We don't have a mandatory backfill, so we don't hire people on overtime to come in to cover if no one's there. We just let the state cover that vacancy, but for the most part, someone's always around during the day. Evening shift officers, we have 2 officers that are on a days eves swap. So one officer works during the day while the other officer works evenings, and then the next week they swap. And then those evening shift vacancies are offset by the 2 part-time officers, where we fill in the blanks where there's no evening shift coverage. We do the best we can. I would think after the week, you're missing maybe 1 to 2 evening shift spots, and then, like I said, the midnight shift spots would be from like 10 o'clock at night till 3 in the morning.
So I saw by the contract that we have 3 shifts in the contract, and they end at 12 or 2 or 2:15, I guess. Are all those 3 shifts generally filled 365 days a year?
To go back to my answer to the question, no, they're not. That's just out of funding reasons, and we don't have the staff to do it.
So besides the 2 to 6 in the morning time when the troop is covering, we still have holes in the shift by the staff that we have.
Correct.
What, I'm curious if we have 2 shifts filled every day usually, or is it just 1? Or, I mean, there's weeks, and I mean, that's quite a gap.
Right, so like I said, we have day shift is usually always covered. We have an officer that works these, that's 5 days on, 3 days off. So during those 3 days, we try and fill in with the part-timers to cover those vacancies. The exact number that you're looking for, I don't have.
But I see 1 part-timer listed on the website. That we deal with.
Okay, you also have Officer Braithwaite, who is a part-timer.
Oh, I thought it was full-time. Okay.
Can I ask one final question? About a decade ago, the state began shifting the cost for state police coverage for cities and towns back to the localities. And the state was clearly trying to deal with budget deficits and make it much less expensive for the state to keep the system going. Right now, they're talking about a $4.3 billion surplus that for various reasons is hung up in Hartford and so forth. Is there any active lobbying and is there any hope that the state government might increase the amount of money or increase, for example, what they pay for equipment or cruisers or, aid for salaries to go back to what it was like in the old days?
So are you talking for my salary or for the officer's salary?
No, it's just in general, for the equipment and the salaries in general for everybody.
So
Well, it used to be, as I understood it, there was a time when any of the personal equipment and even the cruisers were given to the town by the state if the state police was involved, right? And now most of those costs have been shifted to us. Is there any effort to return to the days when state grants were much larger than they are now?
Not that I am personally aware of. I know that Mr. Morgan also speak on it, that my salary decreased over the last fiscal year because of the fringe rate was a decrease. So they actually was less expensive. We don't have those hard figures until the middle of February when the state releases those.
Oh,
So
okay.
my salary could go down, but that's where you see that savings. I don't know of them financing any vehicles for towns.
Okay, all right,
So
thank
just
you.
for clarification, Dave, my understanding of the budget is the town is funding the whole police protection budget. And you would just happen to be a part of it, and the state says, this is what you're gonna pay for Sergeant Cormier,
Correct.
including his vehicle and
And
everything.
it's vehicle, health
So the
insurance.
state's not giving us anything, we're paying the state for that.
Correct,
So 100% of the budget is funded by the taxpayer.
correct.
Thank you.
I have another question. I saw in 29-5, the resident trooper statute, it says that 100% of your overtime is paid by the town. Is all the overtime that you earn in the town's jurisdiction, or do you work at the troop and do private jobs too, and is that covered by the town?
So I work other overtime assignments that are not covered by the town.
So that statute then says 100%, it's 100% of town or overtime.
Correct. Yep. And the town overtime, I work with Mr. Morrison, I modify my schedule to alleviate the town having to finance any overtime. I take days off during the week to work a weekend shift so that the town doesn't have to pay for it.
And one more question. If you weren't here as a resident trooper, would the troops still patrol the town?
Correct, but you could not have a police department.
What percent of small towns don't have a police department, to your knowledge?
I don't know the exact percentage, but you'd be like Willington, Ashford, those are local communities that do not have a resident trooper program. And then you have no police officers in that town, you have one state trooper per shift, and he covers quite a large area, so your response time is depleted, you don't have as much community engagement activities, you wouldn't really see an officer in
So
town.
they pay for that resident trooper?
They do not, they
Oh,
don't,
so they don't, pay, even though it's a state police.
it's a state town, yeah, there's no resident trooper in the town.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, thanks, Sergeant Cormier. Next up is the library. Chris?
Thank you. Thank you very much for seeing me tonight. So I'll try to be brief. The large piece of paper is the budget. And the narrative explanation explains exactly what each line covers and why there's an increase or a state of stability. Okay, so I'll just go through the budget first. So, as you can see, well, I'll start with the bottom line. The budget for last year, 25-26, was 587,180. The budget for this year is 616,810. That represents a $29,630 increase. Okay, this budget was approved on December 11th by the library board. And Mr. Morrison was in attendance at the meeting. And it was submitted, and this is exactly what was submitted on December 29th or thereabouts. Okay, the first line, salaries. There is a 3.2% increase that includes a small amount of overtime allowance for long-term illnesses or evening illnesses or Saturday illnesses. We don't usually have to use that, but I have to have a small amount in there. Salaries administrative is my salary. Salaries full-time is the salaries for 4 full-time people. Oh, by the way, the part-time salary line, there are 5 employees, including the library custodian. So really, there are 4 library workers in the part-time line. Okay, the FICA is 7.65 of all the salary lines. This is a big thing that I want to talk about. The next line, group health insurance. It had a 13.46 increase in the amount of $11,310. So that's a large increase for our small budget to absorb. Retirement had a modest increase of 1,650. Longevity had a very modest increase. Postage, I went from, this sounds so silly, but I went from $150 last year to $350 because when we had more money in our budgets, I had bought a whole bunch for rubber stamps, and I'm gonna have to buy more because I'm running out of my stockpile. So I had to increase it to $350. Maintenance has to go, went up by $500, and I want to go through what's in the maintenance line. Our biggest expenditure is automated business solutions, copier, printer, toner, maintenance contract. The next highest, that's $4,460. The next highest line in maintenance is our dumpster fee, which is $2,400 a year. Then our pest control, which is quite necessary, is $780 a year. And so that's really not going up all that much. I tried to control the lines I could control. I can't control health insurance. Continuing education remains the same, and that's for people either going, mainly for tuition reimbursement for someone who's going to school to be a librarian or a library-related course. Water is, there's a small projection of increase in that, so I raised it by $50. I skipped a line. Utilities and electric. I gave you all a bill. Our electric fee, this is what's driving our budget increase. It's the electricity line going from $24,400 to $24,000 to $28,000. Because last year, electricity part. Last year was 27,000, and I spoke with Yana about the electricity, and we have to project for what the actual cost is going to be. So I made that 28,000, and I included an Eversource bill to you in the amount of $5,400 some odd dollars. Bruce, I was asking Bruce Davis, the facilities manager, why our electricity costs are so high. And he said it's a combination of factors, but one is the coldness of the winter. And we've had a very cold winter. So far, we had a cold winter last year. I've never had to transfer money into electricity. I've been here 15 years. I've always gotten, the town has gotten money back from electricity. But maybe it's the solar, if we don't get a lot of sun, or if we have a cold winter, that drives the electricity because the geothermal system is basically an electric heat. So I wanted to mention just one more thing. We have a 5% increase in the amount of $29,630 over last year. That $29,000 increase, all right, out of $29,630, $29,125 is a fixed costs, meaning salaries and health insurance and retirement and longevity, maintenance, and electricity. So really, if you notice, I'll just go through the rest of the budget. Office telephone, I left it the same. I negotiated with the telephone company to give us the absolute rock bottom rates that we could get. We have the municipal government rate for our phones. They tried to raise it last year, and I was able to contact them and stabilize our rates. Office and library supplies is raising it by $500. And what office and library supplies largely entail are paper. People come in and print things at the library. So I need to buy paper, that's a big expense. And then also library supplies such as the plastic book cover jackets, the labels that go on the books, and the barcodes. So we don't really buy many office supplies. We tend to we've had a lot of donations of people that like have stuff that they donating office supplies to the library. So, you know, I'm not spending a lot of money on pens and staples and whatnot. It's mainly just library supplies and paper. And the professional dues line, we get a lot of savings from that, and what that covers, well, it covers our three things. It covers our membership in the Connecticut Library Consortium, which is it's a negotiating group that negotiates discounts for us, discounts on books and library materials and all sorts of library furniture, library equipment. So we belong to that, and we get a big savings by belonging to them. We also have to belong to the state library catalog. It's called Find It CT. It's a state catalog that if we don't have a book, our catalog is loaded into their catalog and we can borrow it or we can send it somewhere else. Ironically, we have to pay the state for this, and then they give us money back in a grant. Books, I'm using books the exact same as this year, $18,255. That was a very extreme cut in the book budget last year to get the budget to a 0% increase for the current fiscal year. So we made a lot of cuts to a lot of different things, magazines, ebooks, the hotspots. So we're staying the course with the book budget, not increasing it, and we're not increasing the program budget either. Or the capital equipment, we're living at 0. So unfortunately, I do have an increase, but it's mainly been driven, I think, by health insurance costs for the staff and electricity for the building.
Do you have a small revenue side to the budget?
Yes. If you look on the last page, we do charge a small amount of fines for new materials. It's new books. We have copier and printer fees. We have fax service fees. The revenues will be $2,800 based on this year's current deposits. Also, we have a borrowed CT participation reimbursement. That's a state program where you send a library anywhere in the state, including for library loan, and that $450 is a reimbursement for that. And also, they give us a no strings attached grant every year, $1,400, but it's a variable grant depending on how many libraries qualify for it. We do all the things that they ask us to do. They ask us to do an annual survey. They require us to update our policies and timetable. So we always get the $1,400 grant. So our revenue anticipated will be $4,650 roughly.
Are you taking questions now?
Yes.
I'd like to see you increase the request for books, DVDs, and periodicals for several reasons. First of all, I'm a big book buyer. I buy hundreds of books a year, and I know that books that used to be $25 to $30 range are now $35 to $40, sometimes $40 to $50, $45. the whole industry is in great prices. And, I see the people who, we use the library quite a bit, I see the people who are there. And in many cases, they're older people, they're people who take great joy in going there, you know, to go online or to find something that they wanted. It seems to me that in an age of inflation like we're experiencing now, you should try every year to increase that category 4 or 5% anyway. And, you know, with the understanding that people in staff will have a richer selection to choose from, some of the new things that come out will be available. And, you know, it's something that doesn't grow or it stagnates. And with the prices going up, I don't see that can be avoided.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts and I agree with you. However, I'm going to be a little bit conservative, I guess. I'd rather not go through 5 referendums. I'd rather just, we've made some, the book, the people that buy the books at the library, there's essentially 3 people. There's the children's librarian, there's myself, and there's the head of technical services. Technical services is it's my colleague Ellen, and she processes all the books. And she's also spends a great deal of time in an endeavor called Reader's Advisory. And what Reader's Advisory is we're trying to identify what are the main things people are reading, and how can we meet those needs and also maintain a healthy, holistic collection for the future. So we took a look at this cut that we took last year, and we really tried to target titles in areas where we could best get the most money we could out of the $18,000. And I think that we can continue giving excellent service. You know, we can borrow books from other libraries. We do get donations. The thrift store gave us a donation. The Lions Club gives us a donation every year. And we get small donations also. It's not a lot, but I would therefore, I'm not advocating to increase the book budget. What I would like to do is I would like to have the public and the people who use the library understand that the fixed costs go up. You know, last year, as a consequence of the cuts, we cut our hotspots. We have these wireless internet hotspots. Everyone can check them out. And some people that live in certain parts of Stafford don't have cell phone coverage or very minimal. Or there's some people that they don't have cell phones. They need. You know, there was one gentleman who he had a large family. He was involved in real estate. He had to do a lot of emailing. He said, "Yeah, this hotspot is really helping me and my family." And we cut the hotspots from 10 hotspots to 5. But there was a period last year where we didn't have any. It was between 2 months that when we were in the middle of the referendums. And people would come in and they would say, "Why don't you have any hotspots?" I said, "Well, because the budget didn't pass." People, and I'm not being facetious, but people said, "Oh, I didn't realize tax money paid for that." And I'm like, well, it does, you know. There's certain, the library is a taxpayer-supported service. So what I really hope will happen is that I can somehow, through the public meeting or through the help of other people, try to communicate that we're presenting a really lean budget of discretionary costs. But unfortunately, with the electricity and health insurance in particular, it's got to be increased. I can't tell the insurance company I want to pay less.
I want to ask a follow-up question. I still would urge you to increase.
Well, I will.
Because I think it's important to people. A lot of people are, you know, modest means, and if you can get up there and get something that's you really enjoy reading, make their own winter or, whatever else, DVDs and DVDs. But the other question I want to ask you is, in terms of your electricity bill that you presented us here, what was the best year that you can remember?
I remember there was one year, I think it was $12,000, we got $12,000 in return. But it had to be budgeted at a certain amount to pay off the geothermal bond or whatever. But somehow or other, I mean, and Bruce is not here, but, that bill I gave you it says BB, means Bruce Davis. Right? I trust Bruce a great deal. The town is really very lucky to have Bruce. And if the costs are going up, the costs are going up. And I have faith that we're paying the right amount. I don't see the bills that go to the town and they get deducted from my budget. But I do know that last year, the board had to transfer $3,000 to electricity, and we had it. And, I was advised by Yana to project what the actual cost was going to be, and I just gave you that bill as an example. But, for some reason, it doesn't get paid, the bills don't come in every month, or they get paid like, it'll be like very, very small, and then you'll hit November, December, January, and the bills start coming in, and they're bigger, and Bruce has told me that it's largely driven by heat. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Okay.
Has there been any deterioration in the solar,
Not that
system
I'm
that's
aware of.
supplies to him right now? So it's weather and the natural increase in the price of electricity.
Any further questions?
One final question. I see signs in the library can now accept donations of new books and so forth. I have probably 5,000 books in my house, and my books in the store, but I'm 83. The great book that I was going to write on, whatever it is, I was buying books for, it's not going to happen at my age. Is it would it be worthwhile to bring in to talk to you about what kind of books you're looking for? For example, I wouldn't want to give all my books away and have to sell them for 25 cents in the next book sale.
Unfortunately, I don't want to discourage you, but for the most part, we have to manage our collection quite, we spend a lot of time managing it. And for the most part, when we get donations, if there's a brand new book from like 2025, it's a bestseller, we'll take it from the donations if it's in good condition. But most of our donations go through the Friends Book Sale because most of our circulation is from the new shelf. But we also, we always are building a nonfiction collection because those books still go out. I shelve once a week, or on Friday afternoon, I shelve usually some afternoons I shelve, and I shelve the books to see what people take out. And you'd be surprised, a book that we bought 10 years ago on Vikings, someone takes it up. So people tell me, oh, you don't need nonfiction because of the internet. Well, that's not true. But to your point, Ellen and Jessica and I think that we can meet all the needs of Stafford, with what we proposed, and but you said about donations, we use very few. They get sold on to friends of the Stafford Library. It's a group of Stafford residents. So, first of all, most of the donations that we get should go to the transfer station and be thrown away, but people don't want to throw away a book. And I understand the sentimental capacity. If someone says, these are my father's books, or my mother's books, or my brother's books, if they're Time Life books about, Native Americans from the 1970s, that they should go to the transfer station. But they do sell books online. We have a big annual book sale in October, and they raise about $4,000 for the library through those book sales. But to your point, if you were to give your donation of books, first of all, we couldn't accept 5,000. We'd be overwhelmed. But we do accept donations, but most of them either get sold at the book sale or if they're in bad condition, which they often are, they get thrown away. Like if they're moldy. thrown away.
Thank you for your information.
So, thanks, Chris.
Chris, can you speak to the USA Haul? When they pick up your recycling and your trash.
Yes, we have two dumpsters. We have a recycling dumpster and a trash dumpster. The trash dumpster is picked up every 2 weeks, the recycling is picked up once a month.
Okay, so now USA Hauling takes the trash to the Stafford landfill, or to the,
I don't believe so. I believe that they take it away and take it wherever they bring it.
okay, so we're paying $2,400 for both services, but they take the trash away.
Yeah.
Now, how much trash do you have every 2 weeks?
Quite a bit, because when people come to the library, they come and hang out. You know, when you go to the town hall, you go in, you get your permit for your shed or whatever, and you leave. Well, people come and hang out in the library, and they use the bathroom, and they eat. We have an eating area, we have a place to eat. So there is quite a bit of trash. And we have a part-time custodian, who's trying to get out, particularly, but there is, I've had to call the dumpster company and say, hey, it's full, when are you coming to get it?
And they come once every 2 weeks.
Yes.
So why can't the town do it?
Let me update you when I do my presentation.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
We also in the library? Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Speaking of updating, John, you're up.
Do you have a paper copy, Steve?
I do need to thank you. Thank you.
Where would you like to start?
You want to start transfer station or
Good choice.
my choice? Let me address Donna just so it's fresh for you. So there is something that we're doing in this next budget year that's not reflected in the budget yet, and that is that the transfer station will be handling trash at most of the town buildings and eventually probably all of the town. So that's gonna be a cut out of there. I'm not gonna speak to the selectmen's budget, but we're working on that actively right now to, obviously it's a small investment. Some of it's paid through grant money through the NIT program. I'm trying to arrange that so that we can cut that cost out of the town side of the budget. Did I answer your question? Okay. I will start with the transfer station since we're talking about it. That works. So obviously, salary and health insurance are gonna be the largest drivers. You'll hear that across the board. I have an increase in equipment repair. We have our backhoe that we have there needs some extensive repairs and engine rework on it, so that's gonna eat up that whole $10,000. DEP compliance, I have an increase of $2,000 currently. And that's just there's a new stormwater pollution prevention plan that we have to pay for. That's part of this increased sampling. Because of the new plan, we have to go back to what we used to do like 10 years ago and test for everything. Whereas right now we don't test for everything, so it's going to be an increase in the lab fees on that. Recycling and trash, I have a small increase of 5,000 each, just as trends over the last 5 years. Obviously, some of that is offset by revenue. Most of it's offset by revenue. Household hazardous waste, there's an increase in this one, but in my updated one, which we haven't passed through the selectmen's office yet, that has gone down. So instead of a $15,000 increase, or instead of a $5,000 increase, that's just a $1,000 increase in that. And that covers our fees in the disposal costs of our household hazardous waste program with, CREOC is the group that we are part of. And moving on to trash disposal. Again, another increase, 10,000 in there just as trends go up. Again, offset by revenue, where we seem to be sitting pretty flat as far as what we take in is what it's costing us and what the service district is generating. Their part, their share of the trash is also has been sufficient for the last few years with slight increases. Let's see. Telephone equal and capital projects, I have 15,000 in there, and that's to replace cans or those roll-off cans or to send those out to get reworked because the bottoms rot out and you have to get new wheels and they have to be reworked so that they're roadworthy. And that's the transfer station. I'll take any questions on that.
Do you know what the approximate revenues are per year generated by the transfer station?
I don't have an exact number now because I have to get with the finance office and work with you. There's a few things that I don't know exactly where they are. As far as the revenues are concerned, specifically the pay-as-you-throw revenue, so I have to get that from them. But typically, I would say over the past few years, the revenues cover everything except for salaries and health insurance, for the most part. And then, obviously, their service district, they pay for their share of trash, so in the service district, when the garbage gets picked up, as Donna was thinking that the town trash goes, or the town buildings come to the transportation, they don't. But in the,
Second job.
it's okay. So when the service district gets picked up, to save them time from driving all the way to South Windsor, they bring their loads to us and then we haul that trash out. It also allows us to weigh that trash so that we know we're getting a fair shake from our contractor. So that, whatever tonnage that comes in every week, that gets paid out of the service district's budget, if that makes sense.
Sure. Does this show up here on hauling then?
What's that?
That shows up on hauling, but that's another revenue source for the hauling.
On hauling. That would be in the trash disposal, but again,
There you
so,
go, trash disposal.
so trash disposal, this is essentially, the only thing, so the fees, what the fees of the transfer station don't cover are recycling. Anything recycling, we can't charge for. So,
No, what I meant was, so the borough trash gets picked up, brought to you guys,
Mhm.
you weigh it, you dispose of it.
we bring it to them down in South Windsor.
Oh, you do.
Yes.
So that's part of the trash disposal budget, or?
It's part of the, so that trash from the service district itself is paid for through the service district budget, not this budget.
So you guys are handling that, but none of it shows up here.
Correct. So you'll see another line item for trash in the service district, so I just want to draw those two things together for you. Did I answer your question?
And anything else on transfer station operations?
Yeah, I see in 24-25, your actual for capital projects were, you spent 20,000.
It was 20,000, and so last year it was cut, so it didn't allow us to do any replacements or repair on any of the cans.
And now you're asking for 15.
I'm asking for 15.
Do you know historically from year to year what that capital project usually spent at?
It should stay at 20 because that's approximately the purchase of a new can. So at this 15, I can potentially buy one if I can get a good price on it. My intention is to buy used. We don't need brand new top of the line stuff. If I can buy used, I will. That's what
So if we didn't do it last year, we're 20 behind and we're already 5 behind for the proposed, so we're just going downhill.
I have a mandate from the selectman's office to try to keep my budgets as flat as possible, and that's what I'm working with.
Well, flat would be nothing from last year.
As flat as possible.
Question. In terms of the solar panels that are, present in the Gump area, how much of the electricity is paid for by those panels?
I'm not an expert on the solar program. I will not speak to it. I would recommend probably Bruce to explain the intricacies of that. I will tell you from how I understand how the program operates is it's a lease, so it was bonded. So whatever we would have paid for power is what we're putting back into the bond. So I can't say you're gonna see a decrease in any of the power bills. You're gonna see whatever the bills are should be getting paid towards that bond. But again, I'm not the expert on that.
John, could I ask about the health insurance? Because I'm confused that, I thought the health insurance was something offered by the town of Stafford to all of its employees. So why is the increase different for the different departments? I mean, why is yours so much higher?
So it all depends on who's working where, because the health insurance cost is different per employee. It depends on if they have a family or a spouse. So specifically in the transfer station, you'll see that's, so it's, again, this is more of an HR question than for me. I don't control this part of it. But it depends on, so for a single employee, the health insurance is this much. If you had a spouse, it's this much. If you had 2 kids, it's this much.
So we have to presume that all the different departments are under the same policy, but you may have hired 2 people with families, so you have to offer them, they want the family coverage.
And they have the larger amount of employees.
Yeah. Public works in general, that's the largest.
But the increase is almost 50%.
So the health insurance is gonna hit us hard this year, as far as I understand from the selectmen's office.
But why hasn't it hit all the other people who made presentations equally?
Once again, it depends on what they're making of their department. If I would have to be, I'll just speak as if I were in the library and I was a single person, I only took insurance with no family, that would be less. It would be, Jonathan had a person who had a family of 3. Also, the amount of employees, and once again, just the library, has much less than Jonathan would have his. So it's the sheer amount.
We've just gone down to the police department, and if you see that discrepancy, a lot of these town officers were retired state troopers, so they don't take account.
Some people have 0.
John, how many employees in the transfer station under that health insurance?
So the budget accounts for 3 employees. Right now, we only have 2. Looking to hire them. And again, this is a work in progress. I'm working on this daily. Even this right here is modified from what I have currently, but that's a work in progress with the selectman's office. Presenting what we showed before. So this is a daily thing that Bill and I work on. We'll go to 300 general highways. Again, you'll see increases in salary and health insurance, increase in public works director and office manager line, increase in FICA, longevity pay. There's a small increase there, but that goes down every year as employees retire. After 2012, any employees hired after 2012 don't qualify for longevity in our highway branch. We have an increase in maintenance and trucks and equipment. Specifically, it's the cost of steel and the cost of parts has gone up quite a bit. So maintaining the fleet that we have is costing us more money. And so I put an increase of $10,000 in that line to cover that, what I'm projecting extra for next year. Consultants, there's an increase of $2,500. And again, that's to help cover some of the stormwater pollution prevention plan rewrites that were mandated to do by the state of Connecticut. What was nice about diesel fuel and across the whole selectmen's budget, diesel fuel, propane, or diesel fuel, heating oil, and gasoline, we were able to lock in at just a slightly lower price than we did last year. So there's a small increase in fuel for buildings, but just because I allocated for more gallons, just in case, so that it evens out a little. Small increase in the sewer assessment as superintendent informed you guys. Road maintenance and equipment and supplies, so that's an increase of $22,000 500, I'm trying to, so it was 114,000, last year it was cut to 60, and this year, I'm asking for 83 from the selectmen, specifically because along with that $1 million of paving comes replacement of catch basins and, pipe and all the associated tools and supplies that go along with that. So as we repair roads, that's what that goes towards. Moving down paving, we're keeping it at $1 million, same as it was last year. Again, the hope is to do another project similar to Hamden Road. As you'll see, I spoke about Hamden Road last time. That'll be getting done in the spring. I have a small increase in bridges and flex beams. Most of that line item goes towards guardrail. We have a lot of old wooden guardrail around town that we're trying to prioritize and replace as the budget permits us to with safer, more modern guardrail. There's obviously a lot of large discussion of that. And that's what I have for highway.
But I'm glad to see you're maintaining
I think the thing is important.
Can you tell us how many employees in the highway department?
Right now, there's 11 plus a mechanic, plus, well, different unions, but
You mentioned,
basically 13 drivers plus foreman. So you're looking at 15 or 16, depending on where we're at.
you mentioned the road maintenance equipment and supplies include your drainage equipment and catch basins and things. That's not considered part of the paving budget.
We try to allocate the paving budget completely to
Asphalt.
either reconstruction, resurfacing, and then paving itself. So whether that be full depth reclamation or milling, and then the paving, we're trying to keep as much money to that as possible. So the road maintenance and equipment and supplies helps us just support that. So that's what that.
So if you're reclaiming and you're doing drainage on a road, is the drainage part of the repaving? Or is it part of the supplies and equipment?
Typically, as part of the supplies and equipment is how we've done it in the past. Obviously, if it's a need, I don't think anybody, the selectmen's not against taking it out of the paving, but we're trying to, again, allocate all that money toward it.
To stretch it, make it go farther.
Yeah, there would be some design work in there too sometimes, when you reclaim it.
Depending on the project, yep. A lot of the design stuff that we do is mandated when we're looking for state or federal money. That design work is typically 100% paid for through by the town before we can go ahead and ask for that money from the state or the federal government.
In the past, my experience, it's usually 10% of the project.
Depending on the program. Sometimes there's certain programs, federal, local bridge, that's 100% covered, 80 federal, 20 state. We pay for it, they pay us back. There's the lot set program, which would be Gulf Road in the future. That is CROG, except we have to pay for the design on that.
Is the Grand Avenue resurfacing program?
Where is that? What road was that?
Luckily, a lot of roads in the borough qualify for grants. I will tell you one thing that I'm looking at very closely right now is the next steep grant. I haven't had a chance to sit with the selectmen yet, but my recommendation is going to be Wellington Ave, primarily because the lion's share of the work has already been done because it was applied for another grant that got canceled. So that, my intention would be Wellington Avenue sidewalks and for steep, but that's in collaboration with Amber and the selectmen's office.
I just want to ask one other question about the town budget. Actually, it applies to all of them. It's naive, most people will disagree with me and so forth, but given the rate of inflation, we all can see in everything we do every day that you're getting less for what you're spending, this year as opposed to last year. And if you look at the infrastructure in the town, and you look at the areas where there's been some investment, like the downtown area, the senior, or the subsidized housing units behind the big Y, and everything. Those are really nice units that would be attractive, people would want to come here. I don't see how it's sustainable every year. It's laudable, and it may be the only way to pass a budget, I don't know. But I don't see how it's sustainable every year to absorb the inflationary increases and then to have additional cuts and be able to maintain the town. A community like Stafford is almost like having a house, and you live there, your quality of life and everything is affected every day by the state of the town. I'm just wondering if there's some way that you or, town agencies in particular can point out to people what they're losing and how, roads don't fix themselves. And equipment, go to Home Depot and you're paying 40% more than you did 2 or 3 years ago for the same thing. Is there some way that we could make people understand that, if you don't make investments for the future, pretty soon you're gonna have a dump on your hands. And then you're gonna be overwhelmed and you're not gonna be able to improve.
Yes.
I will leave that communication to the elected officials. It's not really my place to say that. What I can tell you is that, yes, obviously, everything gets more expensive every year. So when you work it with a flat budget, or when you work with try to, as minimal increases as possible, which some I agree, some I don't agree with on a taxpayer side of it, because I am a resident of the town. But I would say that I would expect that if we continue with minimal increases, we have to expect to lose some sort of service. Because there's required things that the town has to give. The town is required to do what we can for infrastructure, and provide emergency services, a number of required things. There's a number of not required things that we do. So the expectation that I would communicate with people is that think of the not required things that we do, and those are the things that will most likely be cut, obviously, because we have the required things either from a town side or a state perspective with unfunded mandates.
Well, I just want to make that clear, my opinion on this. If there's some way you can tell people what we're losing, it sounds so good, everybody comes forward and says, we don't have to have an increase, I can handle this, it's going to be good, but I can hardly get to my house some days. The road is so bad. After heavy rain and so forth, it washes out. Ridiculous. There's all those houses on that street, apartments and everything way down at the end. It was never like that before. And, everybody thinks, we prevented a budget increase. They're online already talking about, stopping budget increases for this year and so forth. But the bottom line is that we don't get minimal increases. You get minimal maybe more than minimal losses, because in most cases, we don't even make up the lost money to inflation, rate of inflation. There's right now a committee in Hartford that's dealing with education caution, and I went to the sessions and I picked up a paper that was done there. And they took a look at the real effect of inflation on, individual school districts and how much, in certain areas, it costs spiraling, amazingly, special education, things like that. People didn't understand it, and I'm just afraid that, someday Stafford is going to wake up and find out that we, cut so many corners that we don't have much to work with anymore.
Any further questions about the highway garage?
I have one. Do we have any leased vehicles currently under the highway, or are they payment plan?
Lease purchase?
Yes.
Correct. So a new lease purchase program was voted in the last budget, and that is currently underway.
Is that reflected in here?
I believe it's in another part of the selectmen's budget.
Which one's 6 items?
Coming up.
It's been there.
This is a 5-year lease purchase at $179,000 and some change is what it ended up being.
Any further questions about the highway garage? All right, John, you got one more, right?
One more. Parks Department. This one's fairly straightforward. We've made a decision to exclude summer help this year, so that is not in the budget. It's been moved to a different line, essentially. I'll explain that. Skipping over salary and health insurance. I have an increase, so that 11,457 from last year, I have an increase of 10,000 in the field marking pay. That is specifically to pay for a line marking robot. That's going to save tons of labor and about 50% of the amount of paint that we use. It's gonna take weeks off of labor for my parks department. So that's why we're moving forward with that program. Which is the reason why we're cutting summer help this year.
How many people do you have in the park?
In the parks, there's 5 employees. There's a $10,000 decrease in the capital equipment line. That's just specifically because Parks has done a good job in keeping that capital equipment line over the past few years. And we're running out of room to put things, so I think we're okay with the new equipment for the line. They're pretty well set. Most of the new mowers are newer. We have a couple of new machines to take care of sidewalks and such over the last few years. So they're in pretty good shape equipment-wise as far as updating their specific fleet. Skating rink, I have an increase of $500 specifically to address some of the maintenance issues that we have with it. There's an electrical box that needs to be rebuilt there. There's some questions I have to work with Selectman's office on as far as liability and property because it is not a town of Stafford property. So I have to work with the Cemetery Association as we navigate this. Turf management, equipment repair, they increased that line, again, just because parts and repairs are more expensive than they were used to. And I have an increase in playscapes, again, just specifically because playscape repair parts are also equally becoming more expensive. There's some very specific parts that you have to use on playscapes. You can't just go to the hardware store and buy a S-hook. You have to be specifically certified ESO from such and such company with certification that goes to apply for our playgrounds. Backstops and fencing, I have an increase of $1,000, and that's just to repair some of our current backstops that we have. Again, can't do what we used to do with the same amount of money, so keep up on what we have. Projecting that $1,000 increase. So I have parks.
Question up first. I think it's very good that all these things to look at it. Maintaining the paving, I think, is really important. But, to mirror what Dave said, is that a lot of these things we can't keep under funding, right? So it's just going to become more expensive. There'll be a huge tax increase and so forth. If all of a sudden everything got raised up at the same time. So we do have to get back to a certain percentage of increase because even if it's inflation, right? That's not getting us there. We're gonna have to find a way to fund to keep the town in better shape. And I think there's a large improvement just from 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we got the extra money for paving, we're over there. And we had some huge jump that staff that kept that we neglected for years. So you can see it. And granted, that everybody's happy about the roads, but most of the roads, a lot of them, it's an actual big improvement of the streets in the state, and we have to continue that. Any further questions to John? Good. Thanks, John. Thank you.
If I could, Steve, just for a minute, certainly having this forum gives us an opportunity, both selectmen and myself, to get input from the board. I do want to remind you that we're still in the stages of our budget. I'm speaking with Jan Grimstar, so revenues that we have to look at, make sure that we're proceeding, that those revenue projections are all part of that. So we're going to continue to work on our budget, and I'll make sure that when it comes time, we'll have the eyes done.
So the sense that they're involved in about 25 days.
Thanks.
The Board of Selectmen will be presenting their budget to us on the 26th, 24th. All right, next up, Board of Education updates. We do have an update through the end of the year. Anyone have any observations or questions? So now look at the report on the overall numbers. Between the encumbrance and the budget balance, you still have at least 50% of your budget left as of January 1st.
Correct.
I don't know how that plays out in the overall picture, but that would be a good sign. You know, if you had 40% of it, that's really good work. That seems to be the budget that you have and how you're working through it has been successful. Anyone have any questions regarding it?
I'd like to make one comment.
Sure.
Just one comment. I hope that when the school budget is presented, you will highlight to people, you know, the cost of no increase last year, and the fact that, you know, the budget had to be voted on over and over again. What's being lost for students? What do they need that they don't have? And at least make people aware of the fact that you're hurting the future, you're hurting these kids' lives, their life chances. It's a very poor way to save money in my estimation. So I would hope that there would be at least, you know, some presentation of that viewpoint so that people will understand that, you know, nothing's free and that we need to support the schools.
Do you have any comments about your year-to-date budget? You don't have to, just if you have.
No, I mean, I'm here to answer any questions that you all have.
I have a question about the contracted instructional services. I see that there's 11% left, I think, that's what it says. 71,662.
Yep.
Is that campus-wide, or is it specialized? Is it?
It's the contracted services, a lot of that has, let me come up there. A lot of our contracted services are certain positions that potentially we've been unable to fill over the years. And so we have to contract those services out. And so when we contract those out, we typically we'll get a contract from an agency or provider. We sign that contract and we generate the PO for the service for that entire year. So that's why you'll see that there's just a little bit of money left over, but we're still drawing down towards the invoices that we get.
So it's based on the whole year's
Yeah.
contract?
Any further questions on the board of ed budget? Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to cafeteria P&L fund. Okay, if no questions, let's move on to the, we actually have the self-insurance fund here also. It seems as though the numbers really, based upon your hopeful projections, really have been okay from through the month of December. There wasn't any big adjustment like that.
Yeah, so forgive me, I didn't prepare anything on the self-insurance fund because it wasn't on the agenda. So I'm just going off of memory here. So if I say a number mistakenly, it's because we presented that at our board meeting next week. With the self-insurance fund, as we articulated before, there's a certain piece of that money that the Board of Ed has budgeted to come out of the employer costs. That is going to run its course here in February. And that the amount that money that is in this self-insurance account, based off of then also the employee contributions and other revenue that goes into the self-insurance
it's like interest on the bank account, those types of things, like TRB, the Teacher Retirement Board, those types of reimbursements. What we're projecting out is we're just keeping a close eye on the year that we should be ending the year with still 200,000 in that account. But we have a number that we keep in mind every month, that if it's slightly above that number, that changes what our projection is going to be, and that we're prepared to respond to that on a monthly basis.
Thank you. Like you said, it wasn't on the agenda, we just included it in.
No, yeah.
And I'm sure we'll be talking about it as we move along. And the last thing I was requested to ask you for was a student population report, including a breakdown by grade. Everybody has that? I mean, it looks like your population has stayed pretty stable since October of 24, is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, it is not gone down, which I know that's been a topic of conversation over the years, so it's flat, it's stable. That number, the 1258, is actually a little bit higher at this point. We always use the October count because that's the official count that we give to the state of October 1 collection. But we also look at like what there's a June collection period too that we report at. Right now, our enrollment is closer to 1280.
Wow. So you've had a significant increase.
We typically do. You're typically October to June, there is a slight increase across the board. The one outlier that I just want to highlight, because it was significant to even the Board of Ed, was our 9th grade for this year. There was a significant drop. But our 9th grade going into next year, based off of at this time, students that have registered for 9th grade from 8th grade is already at 80. So we're starting to see that come back up. So we're treating that almost like it's an outlier in grades.
So does that mean you had 16 students that maybe decided to go somewhere else, but then they came back?
Typically, that's what happens. Yeah. So you'll see like that senior year count. Typically, that's not new families into Stafford. We typically don't have families that relocate their children for senior year. Those are Stafford families who went elsewhere for high school and have now returned back to Stafford High School.
Did you mention that last student, Donna?
Can I ask a question about the food service?
Sure.
Last time when we spoke here, you mentioned that you had, that you would be revising or coming up with a plan for the food service so that it wouldn't be running in a negative. So this year to date is still on the old program,
No, it's on the new program.
so it's minus $15,000, right?
Yes, but part of that negative is the student meal debt. That's part of the new program. So part of that debt is student meal debt that's associated with that. And then also, if you look at where we were at this time last year, we were at a negative 66,000 at this time last year, and now we're at I don't want to say only, but we are at a negative 15. Part of that is magnified also by our reimbursements that we get at this time of the year is always less. So our reimbursements are generated by meals served. And typically in November and December, you serve less meals because of Thanksgiving break and winter break. So you're not serving as many meals at that time, so your reimbursement always drops. And if you're not aware of that, you see a negative and you kind of panic, but it always starts to come back up, coming in January, February, and March. So I am very confident with our Director of Finance and our Director of Food Service that number will start to come up going forward. And we are still continuing to receive some donations to offset the student meal debt, a part of our debt.
Food donations from farmers or?
No.
Oh.
Sorry, didn't mean to say that. No. When I say we have a student meal debt, so students that when they come in, we still have to serve them the full meal, but their meal account is in the negative. So that's a debt to the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed is obligated to cover that debt. We have started to receive some monetary donations to then offset that debt that the board incurs.
Oh, specifically for
Student
food
meal debt.
service,
food service, yeah. Food service and student meal debt.
And the public can donate to that?
Yes.
Oh. So your goal would be to at least be even at the end of the
Yeah,
fiscal year?
our food service program is like a nonprofit. So the way I described it before, it's very complicated. It's probably one of our heavy regulated departments and programs that we offer because it's regulated through the US Department of Agriculture. So I don't know if you saw on the news, but like the regulations about the type of milk that you can serve has just recently changed. But even that change, it's still heavily regulated about what you can serve and how you can serve.
Right.
So the way I've described it before is we as a Board of Ed are obligated legally, morally, ethically, monetarily to provide a well-balanced meal to students in regulation with the Department of Agriculture. The Board of Ed, so that's a separate entity that provides those meals. In our case, we do it in-house. The Board of Ed basically acts as the fiscal backing, the insurer to the meal account to make sure that it doesn't go in debt. So if ever it does, it's the Board of Ed's obligation to cover that debt.
And the USDA doesn't offer grant money toward that?
They offer reimbursement, and that reimbursement is based off of a whole slew of things. It's based off of the meals you serve. It's based off of your free and reduced lunch count program. And it's also based off of what type of meal service program you're in. So there's different types of meal programs that you can do.
And you thought you were going to change the meal program for?
We did change the meal program. We were our two elementary schools, if you will, West Stafford and Stafford Elementary, part of the community eligibility program. So basically families did not have to put in money towards the meal cost, but the reimbursement that we got from the federal government was less because we just barely qualified as a district. You have to be like over 40% of your population, and we were just barely over 40%. So the reimbursement rate to Stafford Board of Ed was the smallest reimbursement rate you could get. We switched, it was actually last spring, the Board of Ed decided to switch to a paid meal program. Our reimbursement rate from the federal government is higher, but what we're dealing with right now is the education and the kind of the coaching and support of families that typically didn't have to have money in a meal account, now that they do. And so we're kind of working with families and coaching families and supporting families in understanding that switch and understanding that now they might have to apply for free and reduced lunch if they can't cover that. Or if they can't apply, they're not eligible for a free or reduced lunch, working with them to make sure that they're getting some money in their students' meal.
So you're currently under that program?
Correct.
Very involved.
It is.
Any further questions up for the board? Nope, we'll close that section.
Thank you.
Move to the public comment. Does anybody have any public comment? Mr. Cromwell, yes.
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, just a couple of things. You'd mentioned the rising electric costs. When I first come into the office, the first thing I look at is electric bills. It's just crazy to see all you have to sign off on them. And I tried down there, and she actually had signed a contract with a broker. So our electric cost is not going up because of the price. We have a 2 or 3 year per kilowatt price on that. So I wanted to make sure, because I did that at my home too. So that price is good for a year or two at least. Not sure about the solar. If we're leasing, we'll probably fix on that as well, per kilowatt. Another thing that David said about the communication out to the people with talking about the roads really need to be repaired, things like that. Me and Bill talk about this all the time. The communication has to be, we need to find mastermind this, get some communication out there, because there's so many positive things that I've tripped into this. This is the first time I've been in the government, and it's all negative on the outside, always 90% negative on the outside. So to see what volunteers do and what they have to do and everything, I see so much positive with,
we had a little bit more extensive presentation from the Public Works at our Board of Selectmen meeting, and he's getting 3 bids like he's supposed to do and everything. This hasn't always happened in the past. So I'd like to see, detailed, he's also building up revenue. People don't know about this. They see what we're spending, but they don't see what we're trying to, the grants that people are working hard to get in and stuff. So I think the communication is big time. We really have to work on that, whether it's a flyer that goes out, everything costs money and everything. So I did want to put that on the record. Thank you.
Mr. Bagley?
Brian Bagley, Virginia Lane. Couple of questions, if I could. One is going to be, as far as the police officers, the town, are they resident troopers or are they?
They're towns.
They're town officers, okay. Do they respond to calls? Because I know you also had mentioned in there, that's why I'm asking this. You had mentioned that a lot of the state covers, or the state police covers a lot of the half-hour things, stuff like that, when we don't have any on. Now, do the local, or do the town officers respond to anything outside of their normal work hours?
No.
No, so it's all state police at that point?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it. I know there's a question I had as far as the library, as far as copies go and things like that, because you're paying, what is it, approximately $4,800? I might not have the correct figure, but.
Yeah, approximately,
Okay.
yes.
And then you have some money that's coming in from charges that are associated with copies.
Yes.
Okay, so a person comes in and let's say they want to make 10 copies, they pay a fee for the 10 copies?
They do, yes.
Okay,
Yes. Yep.
and if they come in for 100 copies, then they're paying a fee for the 100 copies.
Right, yes,
So
correct.
it's kind of offset that $4,800, even though,
Well, it doesn't quite offset it. It's because the $4,800 also includes maintenance of the machines.
Right.
So I'm doing, whenever possible, I want to be involved with whatever the whole town is doing. So the IT department of the town, the whole town uses this company, American Business Solutions, and we do too. But what we charge per print doesn't really cover
cover everything, yeah.
we don't deposit what we pay out.
No problem, thank you,
Okay.
appreciate it.
Just to add to that, is there a reason we don't charge a nickel more or 10 cents more or recover your cost?
We could do that.
I mean, that should be a dead zero line item, it should be.
I'm sensitive to the fact, if I can just, we have discussed, increasing the color cost. Because that's a big cost. Someone who owned a business in town recently, maybe a month ago, they did like all these color posters. And she said the reason that she didn't go to Staples because we were cheaper. Well, we're not in the business to make money. I'm sensitive to the fact that there's a lot of people in town that are in economic hardship. And so we really, the board, whom I work for, and the selectmen too, we thought about increasing the printing cost, but we haven't done it yet. So what was in the budget is what we currently charge. We currently charge 10 cents a page for black and white, 25 cents a page for color, and 50 cents to fax. The faxing, that does kind of offset our need to have a fax line, and a lot of people need to fax because doctors and a lot of places you have to fax things. But no, we haven't thought about increasing the printing.
I think, what Tony is saying too is also, look, if people are gonna come and get color copies, my wife and I work out of the home. I know that making color copies is very expensive. I don't necessarily agree that a business owner should come in and be able to get color copies that are cheaper than what they would have to pay or do them on their own. So, you know, I don't know if you can make a different scale up, but maybe figure out what color copies cost. Well, a lot of people don't need color copies, they like them, right? So if you charge accordingly, this is what it costs for color copies, I think that would probably go down, and you wouldn't have as many color copies.
Right.
Now, at least you're recouping the cost of that, because, black and white copies cost very little, right?
Right, yeah.
You're charging 10 cents or whatever,
Yep.
you're probably making money on that. But on the other hand, you might be losing a lot on color copies. So maybe just adjusting in a way that you are more revenue neutral, that's probably good.
Well, I can tell you that it depends on what you're printing, because the business person was printing like a poster, like a full color poster. We were talking about having another charge for like a poster charge. Because if you have a copy that might have some red text in it, or might have some color text in it, or a letterhead that has a color in it, that's not what's driving the color cost. It's when people do a full color poster, you know, for whatever reason.
So we just look and see what the rates are in Staples and match them. They don't have to drive out of town then. That's what I would say. If I was running that department, that's what I would do.
Or maybe having copies for people for personal use, not for business use.
I'll raise that with the board.
We'll talk about it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's-
Chris, we can keep the money that we-
Okay, one more question I had. A lot of times we go to meetings and things that, like budget meetings here, okay, a lot of budgets are being presented and things like that. But we, the public, can't see it. I mean, why aren't they posted out there with, let's say, the minutes of the town so that, I mean, it's public comment time, so we really can't comment on much because we don't have the documents in front of us that we can turn around and make sense of. So it'd be a whole lot more beneficial to the townspeople where the agenda's there and they can take a look at the different items and things like that and go along with it.
Can we make sure to post the budgets with the minutes when we're doing budget? And, you know, keep in mind during the process, all these budgets were developed with board of selectmen meetings, which I imagine you hand those out then, or you have something about them. And maybe not enough information is being provided then, but right now, I'm pointing out to Mr. Morrison that maybe it should be that.
Right.
So you can question it and make sure these things are posted. Because when it comes time for the actual formal budget presentation, there will be copies for everybody here to pick up to follow, correct?
Yes, sir.
I just want to make one comment about what you said. I can remember not so long ago, the times when the budget meetings for the year to approve the budget were held in the auditorium of the town hall. They'd have to bring in 50, 60 extra chairs. People were sitting on the windowsills and everything else. Hundreds of people came. Sometimes they had to return to go to the high school auditorium to accommodate all the people. We've got to somehow get back to spreading information about what's done, drawing people into meetings like that, putting something on paper, maybe just a brief outline for each department about what they're foregoing, you know, where they save money, where they would like to have more money available to them and so forth, to give people something to begin to discuss. And the point that was made about the negative attitudes toward government, that's absolutely right. You look at the people, hundreds, I don't want to go into this in great detail, but hundreds of people talk about corruption in town and the fact that we never have audits and all the rest of it, completely crazy things that are put online every day, over and over again. If you look at the work that's being done here today, it's high quality work. People are doing the absolute best they can. That's the message that should go out to the public.
Well, and that's something that I'm saying, by putting the information out there, they can see how the transitions are going. They can understand more as far as conversations we're having today, they're not gonna hear when they get to your meeting. Okay, so they're not gonna know any of the little idiosyncrasy things that were talked about, or the questions that came up, why were they being brought up and things like that, which is important. Okay, I mean, in order to walk and run, you gotta crawl first. So you're going through the crawling process now, but nobody sees it until they run and stumble and fall. You know, I mean, it's
Just one other point I'd like to make. Our union just paid a professional organizing company to come in with some suggestions from my legislative action committee at CSEA. And one of the things they do is they actually stage like a fake, show competition like you see on TV where two different people are trying to answer questions, and the side that gets the most right, wins. And then they give out actual tests to the people. And they find out that most of them don't even know 10% of what they should know about the contract, about what we're trying to do with it and so forth. If we could somehow get that information out to people that they really have to reassess what they think they know, would be great.
Well, they should get up with the times. They should be giving everybody participation awards. So, I mean,
Thanks, Mr. Patrick. I think one of the things you said, Selectman Cromwell, is that there's some people in there, there's angry rooms, is that the word you used? Rooms with a lot of angry people.
Yes.
Those are the rooms that we need to get into and talk to those people. Because I see just watching things on Facebook and hearing people say things, as you're finding out, as you've gotten involved in this, I'm pretty sure your head's almost exploded a couple of
I would
times,
not do Facebook.
realizing what the reality is from what you're being told sometimes.
Yeah.
And those are the people that we have to get to. Look, somebody being angry over the fact that their taxes are going up is, everybody is. Nobody likes to pay more taxes.
Yeah.
But being so angry that information is put out that's not correct, or we need to turn it down, we need to shoot down the budget, that's not the right reaction an adult should have to something which is in front of you. It's like saying, my taxes went up, I'm sorry, my mortgage went up, or my car payment or something went up, I'm just not gonna pay it. You can't do that.
Exactly.
And I think we have to find a way to get that forward, because we need to keep the town in one piece moving forward and find where, if there is wasted money, let's find it, all right? But truthfully, looking over these budgets all the time, I don't see a lot of wasted money. The budget has been, for lack of a better term, constricted over the last 10 years, where, it's gone up, but not enough to really do what the town needs to do. And I think we're at a pivotal point where we do need to, as Mr. Walsh reminded us, every meeting, 5 times a meeting, 10 times a meeting, we need to find a way to fund these things for the town. Any other public comments? Yes.
Hi, I'm Sue Phillips, I'm the chair of the library board. I just want to support Chris in what he did. We were asked to produce a zero or a close to a zero increase budget. We wholeheartedly agree. Chris does the day-to-day stuff. I'm going to do the philosophy stuff. We wholeheartedly agree that the book budget should be much, much higher. It used to be 40,000 and look where it is now. It's been edged away a little at a time. But when we try to hold the line on the budget and the health insurance goes up, the electricity goes up, you can see there's not a lot in our budget. There's not any place to take it from except for there. And it's not okay that it's only this amount. And it's building a library collection and a library program is kind of like maintaining the roads. If you don't do it, it erodes away on your foundation. Books and things or informational sources that we can't purchase this year or next year, we will never be able to go back and get. Okay, and there are some foundational things that need to be there. So just know that it's not, Chris is working really, really hard and to believe that it's okay, but it's really not. So I just want you to know that there really is need for more, but we will do our ever loving best as we always do. And that's it.
Mr. Brooks.
Henry Brooks, 2 River Road, apartment 208. I just want to thank the Public Works employees for all their hard work and what they did, keeping our roads safe downtown. That new snow blower thing worked great. I think what they're working with, they did pretty good down there. Again, this was a big storm for them, and some of them haven't plowed that much snow in their time with the town, so
I think
they did good, and I appreciate that.
Can I ask Yana one question?
Sure.
Yana, do we know what the value of a mill is now?
No.
We still don't.
Okay, no further public comment, we'll close that. For an update right now, we have, this month, we're gonna have on the 19th, Board of Education will be presenting their budget to us here. Hopefully people will come and hear out what they have to say. And on the 26th, Selectmen will be presenting their budget. And, let's try and have, like I said, I think it's a good idea if we can post that budget, because I don't know if it'll be approved, even if it's a draft budget, maybe get it up on the website with the agenda or whatever, so people can take a look at it beforehand. I think that'll help quite a bit. And, somebody had asked about hearing from other department heads on their budget. When, in the past, when we give our budget hearing, we do that, the formal budget hearing, sometimes we have department heads there, all right, to give the presentation. I don't necessarily agree that that's the best way to do it, or the most, the best flow for it to do it. But if possible, when you to bring your budget to us on the 26th, if you could have department heads here, in case anybody on the board or the public has questions for those department heads, unless you think you can answer the question.
No, 100%. They typically would be there, and I encourage them, and by the way, they are always willing to do that.
Yeah.
All the department heads are saying.
I think at the next meeting where you present to us, that'd be a great time to have you.
Okay, sure.
Because that's like here's our budget, we're still in developmental phase. So like, Mr. Bagley said, questions could be asked of them at that time, so then we can do it. I think it'd be a good way to do it.
I was especially interested in that. And I attended one presentation by the Human Services people one time to talk about 600 active cases. People came in and talked about how their families were dysfunctional and without the services, somebody ended up in jail. And there were people who had talked about, other problems they had. People should hear about that and understand, we supply services to those.
Sure, yeah, it's a team effort, I think, sure.
Good. Yeah, last thing is chair update. I really have nothing else except for I just want to give you about our upcoming meetings. I would like to thank Ms. Abramovich. For those of you who don't know, she put in her resignation letter. Her last day will be on February 19th. Okay, so you probably won't be here for the Board of Ed meeting that night. But we appreciate your service to the town and wish you the best in the future.
Thank you very much.
One question for the chair. Do we have an audit update?
Do we have an audit update?
Yes, we do. I made some changes on the draft. We'll be meeting with Kyle today to see what else is outstanding. So we're hoping he will be able to present to the board, so hopefully before that's the goal.
Good. So when you actually get the thing, say, okay, fine, your budget's all set, whatever, if you could just shoot out an email to the board and just let them know, hey, audit's done or whatever, so we can kind of just take them. Okay? I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Third, fourth, all in favor? Aye.